Hey folks, Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation. Happy Friday, team. Man, it is freezing. Speaking of F words, not going to drop that one. It's freezing here in Boston, and it's Friday, and got some questions. Been doing an awful lot of administrating behind the scenes for all of the new Try Now members. For those of you who are watching this as your first video from Endurance Nation, welcome. I do this weekly. You can submit all of your questions to WeeklyQandA at EnduranceNation.us. That's weekly, the letter Q, the word and, the letter A, EnduranceNation.us, and I, Coach Patrick, will answer them for you. So, two questions this week, two good ones. One I think is a little bit old, so I apologize for sure, but let me go through it. So, the initial question is, I get I've seen a lot on the forums how when people ask about continuing the OS if they need to repeat or what they should do with the OS, you guys keep recommending weeks 9 through 12. What up with that? Well, truth be told, the OS plan, which is 16 weeks long, has two main elements to it. There's the functional threshold element to it for the bike, which happens weeks 1 to 8, and then weeks 13 to 16. But weeks 9 to 12, that third cycle, that third weekly block out of the four weekly blocks, is all VO2 work. We change the intensity on the bike there, and we also change the intensity a little bit on the run. And as a result, that third cycle is kind of the key cycle. So if you're in the house and the new members, some of you will see this where I've said, you know, your season plan says you should be on block 4 of OS, but I want you to do block 3 and then just skip right to the basic month. Block 3 is the money week. If you've got the fitness and the ability to sustain it, block 3 is where we really boost your VO2, which is essentially the roof of your fitness. So remembering the analogy of a house, if you've got your roof, which is your VO2, your speed potential, if you will, and your threshold, which is your actualized speed, every once in a while we need to raise that roof so we can go ahead and raise the ceiling again. And that happens typically after a good training cycle, which is the first 8 weeks of the OS. Go into the VO2 cycle, the week 9 to 12 of the OS, really boost up the ceiling, then go back to the threshold, and we see that final gain. This is something that we've been working on behind the scenes, super top secret for 2009, coming out soon. Some emails bouncing back and forth between some wicked smart people, where it looks like we're going to do a little bit more to work on the VO2 stuff. But for now, the safe answer is 9 to 12, those weeks of the OS plan. That's where you get the biggest bang for your buck, and I'm all about the big bang. No wasting your time. We want you to get out there, get faster, so we can have more fun kicking people's butts come April when the weather turns nice, if the weather ever turns nice. And speaking of biking and being outside in nice weather, let's turn to question number 2. Question number 2 from Nemo. Nemo, what's up? I'm so happy to get your questions. Nemo, you're on the boards, you rock, you kick it. Many of you don't know, but if it weren't for Nemo, we might not even be here. So anyway, I digress. Let's see. Her question, I love the Big Bike Week blog entry, and there are 3 entries in that volume piece, by the way. Hopefully you guys are checking them out. They're also in the train map as well. With my budget getting tighter and tighter this year, surprise, aren't we all feeling that pinch, having some guidance on how and when in the season to put together a Big Bike Week is hugely helpful. Awesome. I've already started scouting out local century rides to see if I can build up my own week at low cost. That's exactly what we want you to do. Number 1, the recommended bike week for someone training for an Ironman is about 5 days straight. If you're doing lots of these rides from home, no lodging costs, is there any reason they have to be done on consecutive days? Could you build in maybe 2 rest days and get the same effect? You could, if you wanted to build in those rest days. And if you need to build in those rest days, there's Daisy Cat. Daisy Cat wants to answer some questions for you guys. Sorry about that, Nemo. If you have to because of work or whatever reason, then go ahead. But part of the reason why I like that big week is because it really kind of puts you under the gun. It's got you getting out of bed. It's got you working consistently, stacking that mental energy that's really hard work, metabolically building up. I would like to see you stack the volume at that low aerobic intensity for maximal effect. If you need to build in the rest days, okay. If you get to day 2 and you've got some kind of an awful saddle sore problem or something else happening, you need to take a day off, fine. But in general, if you're reasonable in terms of what you set out for yourself, i.e. don't go out day one, ride 120 miles and kill yourself, you should be able to execute all 5 days, and I'd like to see that if possible. That's definitely where you're going to see a huge return stacking that up. At the end of the day, go back in WKO and look at your acute training load and your chronic training load. By the time we get to June or July, it's not really going to matter so much if it was in 5 days or 7 days. But I personally like to just kind of block that time off, know that, I start on Tuesday, I flick the switch, I am roadie guy, and I can turn it off on Sunday, and I'm done. And that's it. Don't like to kind of play with all the switches in the middle like that. I don't do well switching hats, but if you do, awesome. Number 2, if an athlete is training for a half iron instead of an iron, would you recommend reducing the volume, the frequency, or both? Or maybe your answer would be neither. Let me see. Well, it really depends on what your goals are for that half iron. If you're a beginner half iron athlete, and you just read this volume thing and you're thinking that's what you need to do, absolutely, I would rather you do this than race. We've talked about this before in other posts. I would want to see, you could definitely cut it if you're a beginner, just get into it, maybe do 3 days, like a good long holiday weekend, Memorial Day weekend, great time, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, go for it. Or you can take off any Friday, do your own Friday, Saturday, Sunday, even better. So that's a great way to do it. If you are serious about your half iron, in other words, a half iron is your big race of the year and you want to rock the house, and you're going to go to Ironman in 2010, for example, 5-day week is a 5-day block is a 5-day block is a 5-day block. I'd rather see you do that. Pick something cool. It might force you outside of your comfort zone a little bit, like kind of push yourself. You don't necessarily need to ride 100 miles all the time. 70, 80 miles would be just as well. It depends on your goals. I myself, for example, if I'm training for a half this year, really want to work on my running, so I would probably cut the bike volume down a bit and do some more consistent running through that block. I'd have to get into details with you in the forum, kind of write it all out for sure. But in general, I still like if you're really kind of pushing it, aiming to an Ironman in 2010, I would do the 5-day block. I would just cut down the overall distances to something a little more reasonable. But I like the idea of 5 days of 2.5 to 4 hour rides for you consistently. I don't have to go so epic if you're doing Ironman this year. But again, even if you're doing Ironman this year and you're a first-time Ironman and you see this volume idea, understand that it's better than going and just doing a half Ironman. That's just not worth it. You're not going to get the same bang for your buck, or the same learning curve for that matter. But you don't need to go out and kill yourself. Like I don't want you to, like we say here in the house all the time, don't follow this into a brick wall. That's not the point of this volume post. The point of this is to say, hey, if you give me 5 days, we can take what you've built with the fast and the out-season and endurance station. I can slap a whole lot of FAR right on top of it and really put you in a good place going into your race. But that's up to you, your mental stamina, your physical stamina, what your goals are, what your capacity is here at the present time in your regular day-to-day life. So I hope that helps. Hopefully that gave you some information there, Nemo. If not, definitely fire up in the forum, ask away. I'll get there. I will answer your questions. So that's it. Just 2 questions this week, but I'm happy because that's twice as many questions as last week. Bring it, people. This is me. This is my kitchen. It's quiet. Rich is sick. He's got some kind of stomach bug. I got nothing to do. So talk to me, people. Let's fire this up. Coach Patrick signing off. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Pray to the Lord above that there's no snow this weekend. We actually get outside and get to run. Be safe, everyone, and I'll see you guys online. Take it easy.